Hi, and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. On this week's show, New Jersey moves ahead with plans to reopen public schools, even though teachers and principals reject the idea. We'll talk with the executive director of the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association. New Jersey is set to let hundreds of felons out of prison early, including violent criminals. The director of the New Jersey ACLU explains why they are all for the idea. And Atlantic City has been chosen to launch a statewide program to promote excellence in policing. But first, my interview with Pat Wright, executive director of the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I really appreciate your time. And the timing couldn't be better because we're taping this on a Friday morning. Just yesterday, the governor said he will allow school districts to go fully remote, something you've been pushing for, so you must be gratified this morning.
Yes, I definitely think it's a step in the right direction. We were very concerned hearing from our members from across the state. Many of them, everybody has been working diligently to try to get plans in place to reopen school. That's really our goal. And it's everybody's goal, believe me. But there were a lot of questions around the health guidelines that were provided. There were questions around whether or not schools had enough funding, staffing, equipment, if their building ventilation systems were ready for this. So it's important that districts who are being asked to certify that they are following all of these safety guidelines be given the opportunity to make sure they're all in place.
You chose your words carefully when I said to you, you must be happy with what the governor did yesterday. You said it's a step in the right direction. So this is not exactly what you wanted.
Well, I think it is, in a sense, to have that option. We wish that we had had that all schools had had that option from the beginning because they have been spending a lot of time making several different plans. We felt that it would have been better to probably start all virtually, only to give all districts enough time to really work on the virtual learning component of education, which is going to be part of education in the school year 2021. No matter what happens, whether we're totally virtual, whether we're in a hybrid situation, or whether we have to then close schools because of illness, we're back into an all virtual. So virtual is going to play an extremely important part in education. And we really feel that the summer has been spent planning around the health guidelines and trying to ensure the safety through the logistics and operational components of the school district. Now we really need to have spent the time closing the digital divide, making sure that teachers have the appropriate professional learning to provide high quality virtual learning. All of those components too are so important. So the extra time to do so would be very helpful.
So now, once again, we're waiting for the school districts to tell us what they're going to do. That should be happening next week. What do you expect? Are you hearing from the school districts?
We hear from some. Some of them feel that they are ready. Others feel that now they are able to go back. We've encouraged everyone, and that's as you know, the Principals Association, which I represent, also the NJEA, the Teachers Association, and the Superintendents Association have put out a joint message on this. And districts have an opportunity now to go back and review their plans that were submitted. And if they don't feel they can certify the safety components of the plan because of funding or building conditions or staffing issues that are now cropping up, then they have an opportunity to make that decision locally to go all virtual.
Is your expectation at this point that most districts will go fully remotely?
I No, I don't have that expectation. I think it's a pause to give people a chance at the local level to make that decision. And, you know, that decision weighs heavily, especially on a superintendent who has to certify that all those safety requirements are met. We have long, as organizations, a group of organizations, we have asked for clear, specific, universal, maximum health guidelines for schools so that there's an equity in health safety for all students across the state of New Jersey. And that's really important. So we think that the Department of Health yesterday came out with more guidelines on health for schools. We're going to be delving into those and providing our members with the latest updates on what's necessary. And this is a time for them to reflect on whether or not they can certify that, that safety. You know, there's nothing more important in a school climate as a former principal, superintendent, there's nothing more important than having the confidence of your community, your school community, whether it be your staff, everybody, your staff, your students, your parents, the community as a whole, when you're opening the doors during a pandemic.
You mentioned the students. I went to the CDC site and read their recommendations, and they go through a pretty compelling argument as to why it's better for children to be back in school and why they're pushing for reopenings, socially, nutritionally, safety, health. They go through and argue every point. Mm-hmm. It would seem like to some, and you tell me if this isn't the case, you represent principals. The other organizations you talked about represent superintendents, teachers. Were the children taken into account in your pushing for this?
The children are our number one priority.
Yes, but the CDC says it's safer for children to go back to school.
We want to make sure children are safe. We understand the importance of children being in school. We want them to be in school. We understand all of the reasons why they should be in school. We must look at the risk factors involved in making those decisions and make sure ultimately that students' physical health is paramount right now, that they are safe in that way. We do understand exactly all of the research on why being in school is important. We also understand the growing research about children and the spread of this disease. And so we have to look at what research says on both sides. We need to make sure our health and safety guidelines are strictly in place so that students can benefit from being back in school. School is not going to look like school did last year, right? So, so we have to take that into consideration too, that students will have to make a transition into a new environment. But we do want them back in there. I know they want to be back in there. Parents want them back in there. We want them back in there. Our members want them back in there. Teachers want to be teaching them in classrooms. Trust me, we always have the best. You know, we represent our members, which are principals, supervisors, and directors, but bottom line, we represent them so that they can do the best job for the students of New Jersey.
Once again, we'll all be waiting next week to hear what the individual districts will be doing. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Pat Wright, Executive Director of the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association. When we come right back, the Communication Workers Union is complaining to the state about one New Jersey county over the issue of wearing masks during the pandemic. That's when Jersey Matters comes right back.